everyone, I'm Lilah McDonald, a teenage social entrepreneur and founder of Water Us. I'm also host of NZ Business Magazine's podcast, Sustainably Ever After. Proudly brought to you by Office Max, New Zealand's leading workplace and education solutions provider. I'll be exploring the incredible world of sustainability and entrepreneurship. On this podcast, I'll be talking to guests who are making waves in the world of sustainability. Those who have built businesses with a purpose, those striving to make their companies greener, and those leading the charge for social and environmental change. This episode, I'm joined by Jeff Vollebregt from ImpacTex, an NZ business that recycles textiles.
At Office Mag's business accounts, pay less. Sign up at officemags.co.nz/payless. Let's get it done. T's and C's apply.
Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Lilah. Great to be here.
So, can you just explain what is ImpacTex?
ImpacTex is a New Zealand company. We basically will recover textile waste. So we take old clothing, mainly uniforms from businesses that are either rebranding or they've reached the end of their life, and we take the clothing back and then we recycle it. We do a range of different products, so it's corporate uniforms, but it's also products that are donated via our partners, our retail partners, and it's consumer goods, consumer wear. We do one of two things. We either sort them into resellable, non-resellable. So the resellable product gets donated to our charities that we work with, and the product that's not resellable, right, gets recycled. So that's basically what we do in a nutshell. We've been going for about just over 2.5 years, and we've recovered about 300 tonne of textile waste in that short time.
Wow. So according to your website, so far ImpacTex has diverted, as you said, over 250 tonnes of textile waste from being sent to landfill. Can you kind of give me a visual about how much that looks like?
What does it look like? Well, actually, I should update the website because we're now over 300 tonne.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's so what does it look like? If you can imagine a container, a 20-foot shipping container, and if you imagine one of those containers holds about 3 tonne of clothing, imagine 120-foot shipping containers.
Wow, that's
stacked on
amazing.
Top of each other.
So it also said on your website that that's prevented an estimated 800,000 kgs of greenhouse gases from polluting our atmosphere. How exactly does recycling clothing save greenhouse gases?
When clothing's in landfill, it just breaks down over time. Some clothing like cottons and natural product and wools break down in a very short time, and others like plastics and polyesters, which are polycottons, which are very common, they take a longer time to break down. So basically it's the CO2 emissions that are when that breakdown process, that are emitted into the atmosphere. That's where the CO2 gases and the greenhouse gases come from. The other thing we don't take into account is the leaching of those plastics into the water table. So it leaches through the soil into the water table as well. So we don't know what that factor is, but that's also an environmental issue. Another thing, when it's diverted from landfill, we create something else. The products that we're replacing, the manufacturing of those products, there's what we call an abatement, which basically means when they manufacture that core flute or plastic product, there's a whole environmental carbon footprint around the manufacture of that product. If we can replace it with old textile waste that was going to landfill, so we've got a saving there, replacing a petro-based or a plastic product with something that's made of recycled product, not only have we extended the life of that garment, but we've actually created a new use, and we've stopped CO2 emissions being emitted from the manufacturing process of the plastic product, but also the CO2 emissions from landfill. So that's kind of how we calculate the CO2 emissions from landfill, is all we calculate, which is a factor of about 3.5 kilos of CO2 per kilo of textile waste.
Wow.
So if you've got 100 kilos of textile waste that was going to landfill, but you've diverted that, you've actually saved approximately 350 kilos of CO2 emissions in the atmosphere. All these numbers are, there's numbers up to 6 to 7 kilos. There's numbers down to 1.8 for natural products. So it's a little hard to identify exactly what that number is, but the universally accepted number is 3.5 kilos per CO2.
Okay. So when you're manufacturing the products out of the recycled textiles,
Yep.
how do you make sure that that doesn't create waste or greenhouse gases?
Sure. Well, in the so the manufacturing process it's a mechanical process, but there are other solutions as well, which are chemical based and different solutions for textile waste. The one we use here in my little show and tell here is the Retex product, and the Alpine product is a mechanical process. So basically, the textiles get shredded up. Now there is going to be a little bit of wastage. And we have about a 4 to 5% wastage of the garment as it goes into that process. When we take a garment in, we have to, our business is we decommission it. We make it ready for the next stage. So if you've got a pair of overalls, for example, which have a big zip down the front, right, or a shirt with buttons on it, we remove those buttons or we remove the zip from the overalls, and that's waste at this stage. With those waste streams, we look for solutions for those.
Okay.
But the main product we take the shirt back to, or the overalls back to, is the fabric. The fabric gets recycled. So of everything that's come into our warehouse, we have about 4 to 5% waste, right? So we measure everything that comes in and everything that goes out, including our waste. So when you have a pair of overalls, the zip with the fabric around it today is considered a waste product. If it's metal, we can send that to metal recyclers. If it's plastic, we hold this because there's potentially plastic solutions coming up.
Okay.
The other thing is some companies like to take them back to repair garments. So we hold those for some companies to say, hey, that garments we sent you, we often repair those as well before we send them for end of life. We like those zips or domes or buttons back if we can. So we keep those for that purpose also. So we try and redivert as much of that as possible. But yeah, so there's always going to be a waste factor when you're doing these manufacturing processes, but we try to minimize that as much as possible.
That's amazing. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey to starting ImpacTex?
That's a great question. My background has been with logistics and garment and fabric manufacturing. I spent several years overseas in logistics and in one of the largest garment manufacturers in the world. So I got an appreciation of how to transport things at the best possible cost, but also about the garment manufacturing process, of which there is a lot of waste, and not only the cut waste when they're cutting the garment patterns out, but also in the grade B garments that don't see the retail stores. When I came back to New Zealand about 7 or 8 years ago, I was helping a few startups do different parts of their business. I saw a company in Australia who were doing some textile waste returns, and they had a courier solution. I thought, well, that's a pretty cool solution, right? So, and I said to them, hey, listen, if you're ever looking to launch in New Zealand, I've got some background in logistics, I've got plenty of contacts. I'm happy to help you out because I love what you're doing. So that was great. So we got in contact. We got on really well. We got to the point where I renewed my forecourse license, and we set up a gnarly little warehouse in Onehunga just to see what it was like in New Zealand from a textile waste business. Well, we outgrew that warehouse in a real short time. I sat there in January of 2022 on my own with one carton of 11 kilos for the entire month of January. And I thought, what the hell have I done here? Honestly, I thought, no, okay, this is not really what I thought it was going to be. 11 months later, we had 30 tonne come in the door.
Wow.
Right, in 1 month. So 11 kilos to 30 tonne. So we had a pretty rapid rise. And then we kind of saw, hey, this is a real issue. And this is, an opportunity to do some good, not only with the products we were donating back to charities and social organisations, but also, we could find recycling solutions. That's how I got into it. And then I was on a webinar one time, and I saw another company in the webinar, and I said, we're looking to invest in machinery to do this type of business. You guys have similar type machinery. Why don't we get together and join up and form a partnership and do this together in New Zealand? That was a company who, we developed the Retex product with, and that's what you see in front of you today. So, so that we're pretty excited about. This is our flagship product, but that was developed out of just meeting, networking, talking to people, and just finding out, asking questions.
So, hold on, do you get most of your textile waste from like old uniforms, like you said, or new clothing that hasn't been sold?
That's a really good question. We get a lot of product in from corporates, people who rebrand, right? So you'll see a number of big organizations that rebrand their products, their stores, but also the uniforms. All the uniforms have to be reprocessed and rebranded. All the old uniforms will come to us, and we'll recycle those. So we get big volumes of those at times. Plus we get, when someone's left the company or a garment has reached its end of life, its natural end of life, we get those garments as well from those same corporates and businesses. Another part of the business that we receive is, we get companies and they get large volumes of product in to distribute through their retail stores. Now, some of that, there could be a manufacturing issue with it. It can be an manufacturing oversight. It can be a branding oversight that comes through. It comes over from overseas. It comes to New Zealand, often in large volumes, and there's a fault with it. They can't sell it in the stores. They can't send it all the way back to where it's come from. So they need to find a solution here locally. So we're also that solution. The third part we get is where you've got in-stores in places like Icebreaker, Kathmandu, Macpac, AS Colour. We have in-store bins where people can actually go in and drop their old clothing, whether it's reach its end of life or whether they just don't want it anymore and rather donate it to charities. They can put it in those bins in store, and we collect those bins every month. And that clothing comes to us as well for either donating to charities or manufacturing. So there's a number of ways we get the product in, but as you said, the biggest part of it is through major retailers who have big lots of faulty product or the corporate uniforms.
So for consumers, why is it better to drop it in a bin that goes to you as opposed to donating it to a charity?
Listen, donate to charity is fantastic as well, if the charity will take them. The challenge that a lot of the charities have and the social organisations is that they get a whole lot of stuff, right? They get a lot of gear and it keeps going, and they often have small stores and small footprints in stores, and they can't take the amount of product that comes into them and then sort them and do the work that's necessary to, hey, can that be sold? Can that be sold? They've got stock on the floor in the shop. You can't keep putting stock on the shelf until it sells through. So I guess a couple of things. One, if you can take it to a charity store and they'll take it, fantastic. That'd be great. If that doesn't work and the charity store says, no, we can't take it, then we're happy to take it. So because that'll go back to our charities anyway, our social organisations. It's all donated free of charge. We don't sell anything that we receive. It's all donated free of charge. So either works. Either works. And there's amazing social organisations and charities in New Zealand that really can do with the help. We're happy to do our part, but there's other ways to do that also.
So is there anything that consumers should be doing kind of on the first step to minimise their textile and clothing waste?
That's a good question. What could they do? I mean, I guess they could buy wisely in the first place. I would encourage people to go to second-hand stores and charity stores to buy their product there in the first place. When that reaches its end of life, we're happy to take that on as well. But that's probably the best place to find some bargains, some very cool gear. But also probably it's the best thing to do if you can find something that's been pre-loved. And there's a number of great stores around the place that would really appreciate that business and where you can find some really cool stuff. I think the other thing is to buy well but just choose. And not buying large volumes of product and that sort of thing. That's a consumer choice. I mean, hard for me to sort of say what's right, what's wrong in consumerism and all that. But it's like, I think just choose wisely. Go to a second-hand store if you can, a charity store if you can. Fantastic. Best if you can do that, happy days.
So is there anything that businesses can do to minimise their textile waste?
Yeah, it's always a challenge for businesses because when you've got a business and you've got a number of staff, particularly the larger companies, when you buy let's say a uniform, the uniforms need to be bought for a range of sizes within an organisation. Everything from the 13 and 14 XLs all the way through to the XXXS small sizes. In each of those sizes, you often need to buy a minimum order quantity of a particular size. So they need to order thinking ahead of what they'll need. So for them, it's a little challenging. And I think there's probably some advice they can get on how they should order based on the staff size, etc. But I think it's to be very cautious about how they purchase in the first place for uniforms. The second thing is to find recyclable materials that are easily recyclable. And there you're talking about the natural products. The cottons and the wools are always the best. Polycottons are pretty good as well. But yeah, those natural fibers are fantastic. And if there is branding on, if the branding can be removed, fantastic. If it can be easily unstitched, even better. But yeah, just to be conscious of what makes a garment resellable and reusable at the end of life. So yeah, two parts. One is actually the purchasing, one is the thinking of the end of life.
So we talked about before how much ImpacTex is doing, and I think it's amazing. But I also read a statistic from 2023 that New Zealanders throw out 220,000 tonnes of clothes and textiles each year, which means in 2 years you have recycled just over 0.05% of that.
Yep.
Do you have plans to increase that amount?
Absolutely. And it's interesting, in my presentations I have a pie chart, and I show here's the total waste this year, or in 2023, of textile waste, and here's what we've done, and it's like a line that goes up the pie chart. I mean, it's nothing, but yeah, it's like and we have an expression, right? Instead of scratching the surface, we're scratching the scratch, right? We're just we're just that little sliver. It's the old thing about recycling. We're doing something, right? Even as small as it is. We're never going to get the whole apple tree. We'll get a few apples off the tree, and we've already made an impact, which I think is very true for a lot of sustainability. And companies doing the same thing we're doing is we're just doing things. Just whatever we're doing. And even if people recycle cans and bottles, it seems like a massive issue. But just those little things, it's a great place to start, and it's very easy and very simple, and you can build on that. In the same way, we're looking to build as well. So there's constantly new solutions coming up all the time. What you find is with the climate and the climate and the environment and those sort of things, there's a lot of bad news about how bad things are and this and that, and there's issues around that. But there's so many amazing companies that are doing so many amazing things, and many of those companies are in New Zealand. But if you look internationally, there's some fantastic solutions that are actually in play today and doing great things. So for us, we're looking to scale our operations and grow larger. We want to make a bigger impact on textile waste, and we're looking at taking in different waste streams. So all the products you see here are your standard cottons and polycottons fabrics. We're looking at other fabrics as well, things like nylon and hardcore polyester and other types of fabrics, particularly blends. Some of them have been almost impossible to recycle.
Okay.
PVC is still a difficult one, but I see overseas there's some solutions for PVC. We've recently got a solution for nitrile gloves, which has long been a major issue. Nitrile gloves are like heavy-duty gloves they use in many industrial applications. We're on the verge of confirming a solution in New Zealand for those gloves.
Oh, wow.
Once again, they avoid landfill, and we can find a solution for them that avoids landfill and doesn't get shipped overseas. I should say none of our stuff goes overseas either, right? So so those are the sort of solutions that we're looking at, where we can be just the filter of the product when it comes in and solutioning. When you asked me at the beginning, what do we do? And we're upcyclers, and we're recovery centre, and recovering garments and textiles, and then decommissioning, and then upcycling. But we're actually becoming more solutioneers, right? I'm not even sure if that's a word, but hey, solutioneers, because we're looking at different solutions, right? So this was one solution, which is epic, right? Fantastic solution. But there's more we can do in not only this space, but also in other solutions, right? There's a lot of chemical solutions, right, that are amazing, right? They're doing crazy things with breaking down, polyesters and cottons into cellulose and different aspects. And some of those are overseas, and we want to try and bring those to New Zealand. So we're partnering with many companies overseas to bring these solutions into New Zealand, but we're also developing solutions in New Zealand as well. And there's some pretty cool companies doing some pretty amazing stuff. And we just want to be that conduit for the waste and the solutions. And the more solutions we have, the more waste we can take in. So it's one of those funny challenges, right? That people say, yeah, we send these guys are doing the textile waste and send the textile waste. But if people aren't buying the solution, I'm just hoarding textile waste, and I don't want to hoard it. I can't afford to hoard it. I need solutions. I need people to buy more coasters and more acoustic paneling and more signs or more whatever we can create out of our recycled products. The more people buy the product, the more I can take in and process. And it's kind of that funny thing about recycling is that, yeah, hey, we've got a place we can send our waste and thank you, I'm just wiping my hands now. But the person or the company that has that waste has to find an outlet for what they create. And that's really the challenge for companies like ours, but also for the whole recycling industry. Great solutions. We just need that acceptance of those products and for those to get into market and be readily accepted in market. So it was a long answer to a very short question. I hope I
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So was it difficult, and is it still difficult to educate people on why this should be happening, why you should be buying your products, and why you should be sending waste to you and businesses to get them to support you and do this? Is it difficult to educate them about this?
I think the education process it's okay. I think, and we can get that message out more and just let people know there is a solution. Often we get companies who contact us and say, I didn't know you guys, we didn't know this was available. I didn't know we could do this sort of thing. So that's kind of cool that we've actually got into someone either through a third party or some of our own marketing has actually reinforced that message. So that's part of it. And I think, and people know that waste is an issue and they want to try and divert waste. So we get companies saying, hey, we've got this, but we've also got this. Can you do anything with those? Hard hats is another thing we're looking at the moment, which has got a pretty cool solution with a couple of companies that we're working with, Critical Design and Spacebar. So there's some really cool solutions out there. The education of the waste is okay. I think people get it.
Yeah.
But there's also a commercial aspect as well, because our service we employ a few people, but we have a cost as well, and there's a charge, there's a fee when people send us product.
Yeah.
Now, things are tough for a lot of companies, and not every company can make that commercial decision.
Yeah.
So I think while they know it and they really want to do it, many companies really want to do this. It's not always possible for companies to do this. But like I say, we just try and make it as easy and as cost-effective as possible to do what we're doing. And once again, the more of this product that we sell, we're going to be looking for waste. We want waste to come in so the price will drop. Supply demand, right? So it's really, education's good. I love, doing presentations and talking to people about textile waste and the opportunities around textile waste. But that's part of the story. The other part of the story is actually getting over the line and receiving products so we can do something with it. So, we do a lot of presentations, a lot of discussions, a lot of chats around the place, a lot of webinars, and we love what we do. Very passionate about this whole solution and this business. But yeah, it's the education will take time.
Yeah.
But I think people who see what we do, they love it.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, hey, that's really cool, right? Didn't know you could do that, When you walk in, like Auckland Council have replaced a lot of their core flute signs with signs made of this, right? Made of the Retex product. Now, when you show people photographs of you look around parks at the moment, the Guy Fawkes signs, right? November 5th, right? The fireworks. That's all made out of Retex, all made out of textile waste. That came from uniforms that Auckland Council supplied us, and it goes back to them in a sign.
That's amazing.
When that sign's finished, when it's November 6th and they don't need the sign anymore, they send the sign back to us. We put it straight back in the machine and make another sign again, another panel.
Wow.
So that's the cool thing about circularity. So that garment, that there is orange and blue overalls, right? I'm holding a piece of Retex up right now. That sample there is made of orange and blue overalls, right? And that could be reused again and again and again and again, right? So those overalls would have ended up in landfill 2.5 years ago. That was where they were destined. That's what they were going. Now it's being used in a sign or an acoustic panel, and this one here is a 40 mil.
Oh, wow. Can I feel?
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a spongy sheet, isn't it?
That's amazing, yeah.
So that's an acoustic panel, but it's also cushioning as well. You can use that for pet beds or, squabs. And that was someone's uniform previously, someone's overall.
I can see bits of the fabric in there. That's awesome.
And you won't see zips or domes or buttons in there because we took them out. But that's the panel. Like I say, that's how you've avoided it, and that can be used as many times as we can put it back in the machine.
Are your products like these, are they durable? Because, like, for example, your coaster that you have here,
Yep.
is it waterproof if you spill something on it?
Oh, you can't put any drinks on that. I'm kidding. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have the sign on the road, the outdoor signs we have on our building. We put them up in February this year. So they've been up for, I'll do the maths on that, probably about 7 or 8 months. It would be 8 months. We've had that outside of our building, on the street, on the road, and it looks as good as the day we put it up.
Wow.
So we've also got one of the district councils down in Waimakariri, Huranui District Council, had signs up at the beach. They've had them up, I think, for about 5 months now. They've had the beach, so they've had snow, wind, sand, rain, sun,
Wow.
everything go through that beach. And they've had signs up for that period of time. They took them down. Someone in the council said, "Oh, these are the new signs," and they said, "No, these have been up for 5 months." Right.
Wow.
And they were printed with a very detailed graphic and graphs and charts. A photo of the beach area, which looked fantastic, printed on textile waste. And those signs will come back to us. We'll put them back in the machine, make another sign. But someone thought they were new and thought they were going out to be put up. So we don't know how long it lasts. This is all really, really new stuff, really new technology. But we're finding that it looks great and it holds up well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it has to be pretty durable to survive Auckland weather.
Yeah, well, and exactly.
All the rain.
Yeah, and it's been amazing. And we get direct sunlight on those signs as well. And so it's the sun, it's the wind, it's the rain, it's the hail. But yeah, it's textile waste, which is really cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask a little bit about the fees that you mentioned before.
Yep.
So companies pay you to essentially get rid of the textile waste.
Yes. Yep.
Is it cheaper to pay you to do that than to dump it for them?
No. Landfill is very inexpensive.
Okay.
Landfill is very inexpensive. So the easy option for a lot of companies would be to send it to landfill.
Yeah.
And they can either shred it up in an old wood chipper and send it to landfill, and they'd pay a fraction of the cost.
Okay.
Well, not quite that low, but yeah, they pay maybe half the cost. So it is more expensive to send it to us, but that's
Much
not.
better.
There's no benefit in sending it to landfill really from an environmental point of view. And the cool thing is, a lot of companies now are sort of part of their governance, part of their overall business is a drive towards sustainability. There are some carbon targets as well, some net zero targets that are in place currently. And that's helping major corporates and major businesses make decisions about their end of life and their waste streams, which looks at solutions. So this textile waste solution is a relatively inexpensive solution for a waste stream. So yeah, like I say, we're pretty excited. But the cost to us, it's almost a net zero for us because it's just the cost of bringing the product in, identifying the fabric type, decommissioning it, which is very labor intensive, taking all the zips and buttons and domes or whatever, things out of pockets, because people leave stuff in pockets. We get some interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask, what's the most interesting thing that you found in a pocket?
A wallet.
Really?
With cash inside it.
Did you find the ID or anything?
Oh, we had a great party afterwards.
Oh.
Yeah. No, just kidding. So we contacted the company straight away. It had all the identification inside, so we were able to provide that back. But we get a lot of that, not a lot of that sort of stuff, but, we get knives, like for, cutting boxes and those sort of things. And lots of different things, which if we need to find those before they go through to the recycling step, because metal is the enemy of recycling. Unless you're a metal recycler, then you love it. But yeah, so we, like I said, we have to check all the pockets. But there's all sorts of things, keys and funny things. But yeah. So we're, like I say, that's part of the process, and we've got a wonderful team of waste warriors who are just dedicated. It can be pretty mind-numbing work because it is the waste business. But, sometimes it's just, put the headphones in and podcast in there and just this podcast.
Yeah,
of course.
I was just going to say.
Sustainably Ever After.
Exactly.
But, so yeah, it's, and it's just go on cutters and rag cutters and identifying these things. So, yeah, there's a lot we find. There's a lot that comes across our table, but it's quite a process to do what we do. And then at times we hold the fabric until the solution is ready for more processing. So, we manufacture this product here, and that takes a certain amount of stock, but we need to build up stock because sometimes we'll say, listen, we need 15 tonne of cotton. We need 10 tonne of polyester. We need to have that ready for when those orders come through. So there's all that cost as well. But that's, like I say, it's small change for a corporate, a business generally, but it's important to do what we do, and to keep people employed and to do the right thing.
So can you explain super in depth about your process from when you receive the textiles? How does it turn into these coasters and the soundproofing?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So when let's say a carton, let's break it down to one carton. We get pallet loads, we get container loads, we get cartons, we get satchels that come through. It comes through in all variations, all types. So say a carton comes into us. We receive the carton, we weigh that carton, right? So we just weigh, okay, it's a 10-kilo carton, and then it goes into the next step of the process, depending what it is. So let's take a uniform. A uniform will come in that hasn't been worn before because they've had a rebrand. It's come from out of stock. And it could be one of those outlier sizes, right, that wasn't used. That'll come in the box, and in the box it'll come in a plastic bag, and then it'll come with a tag, right, with a Kimball, which is a little plastic hoop that ties a tag onto it. So we have to take the tag off, the Kimball, both get recycled. The carton it came in gets recycled. The plastic bag it came in gets recycled, and the garment is pulled out of the bag. We identify the fabric type of the garment. It's polyester, polycotton, cotton. And then we put it into a bulker bag with that product. It goes from that initial sorting process to the next stage, which is the decommissioning stage. Right? So decommissioning is where we take off any zips, buttons, hardware, things out of pockets if we've missed it in the first lot, and then it gets decommissioned. So it gets brought back just to the fabric. Right, and then from there it goes into another bulker bag. Sometimes gets baled, awaiting the order for recycling. And then when it's ready to go out, it goes to where the machines are, which is actually just around the corner from us as well. So it's very close to us. And we put it through the machines. The product gets shredded. So the garment gets shredded. Imagine like a garment gets torn up into pieces, like about 100 millimeter strips. And then that strips gets torn into threads.
Okay.
Right, into threads. That thread becomes like a cushioning. Imagine inside your decorative cushion at home, right? And you got on the couch. Inside there will be a white polyester fill, right? In that fill, right? Imagine that sort of consistency, but it's textile waste.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can provide that as well. So that's the first stage. It's the most basic raw product you can provide. So we can replace cushion, that polyester, manufacture one time for one purpose only, and end of life it goes to landfill, right, and sits there and emits CO2 emissions. We can replace that with old textile waste, right? So they can go inside a cushion. So that's the first stage. The next stage is from there it just forms, we can form it into a cushioning, a little bit like this 40 millimeter thick piece. And it can be used as cushioning, pet beds, etc.
Do you do that by just squishing it?
Well, it's a different process. This is not a good example of what it is, right? This is a slightly different process, but that can be up and down and then compressed together.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it becomes like this one here is where all the shreds and all the fibers come together and they're compressed, right? So the polyester inside the polycottons will hold that together and bond it.
Wow.
And then it gets pressed. And some get pressed very tightly. So this one here, which I've got, it's the white one, is a 10 millimeter, and that's quite compressed, right? So it's pretty rigid, right? It's not like a tabletop, but it's pretty rigid, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This one here, the 40 mil, is a lot softer. Now we can create that a lot harder by putting more textile waste inside it and creating a firm, rigid panel like this. Yeah. Is there demand for a firm, rigid 40 millimeter panel? Probably not at this stage, but there could be in future if we find a solution for it. And that becomes a compressed panel of different thicknesses, everything from 3 millimeter right up to 50 millimeter. From there, it's about what's the application? What are we making it for? So we provide them in sheets of 2,400 by 1,200 sheets, and they go out to printers, or we have companies who say, can you make this for us? So we work with a printer and a cutter who cut these signs up for use at council, but also for in-store merchandising. So a lot of retailers now are looking to put their in-store signs, their merchandise, their graphics, their pictures out of textile waste. So instead of using a foam board made of plastics and petro-based products, they're using textile waste, which often they provide us, and they use that to put the graphics on the outside of the textile waste. End of season, when those boards are finished, they come back to us, we put it back in the machine, make another panel again. So that's pretty cool.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
So how do you sort it into the different types of fabrics?
Okay, that's a good question. So we have a fabric scanner, and we're working on the fabric scanning technology as well. Is another thing we're trying to do. But we have a fabric scanner that picks up fabrics. Mostly clothes have a label on the inside. I think that's law, right? To have the fabric types on the inside, especially when we have uniforms. It'll say polyester cotton or polycottons or polyester or cotton generally inside those garments. And most garments will be made of those products. Some garments are made of PVC. Heavy-duty garments are made of PVC, but not very many. Some are nylon, like rain jackets can be nylon as well. But the majority of products are polyester, polycotton, which is the big majority, and cotton garments. So uniforms work better for us because we can identify, hey, we've got these shirts here. I've got 10,000 of those shirts. From a processing point of view, it's a lot easier to do 10,000 shirts of the same one, podcast in and just go. But then, when you've got consumer garments, which could be any range of things, and you think about everything I'm wearing today and you're wearing today, right? All those garments are different fabrics and different fabric types. You have to check every label, see what it is, and put it in the appropriate area. So there's a couple of ways to do it, but the uniforms from that point of view are a lot easier than just standard consumer waste.
And why is it important to sort it by fabric?
Every fabric type has a different waste stream. So we're, like I said, the cottons and the wools have a lot more waste streams than the polycottons and polyesters. So that's quite important because we've got to identify the fabric types and they have specific applications. For this one, for the white product here, the white panels, which are actually quite rigid, that's a polycotton. The polyester inside there makes it a little bit firmer, right, which is a different characteristic than the straight cotton. But cotton has some acoustic properties, right? So different applications will require, for different fabrics. The most popular is cotton. We receive a lot of cotton, particularly cotton overalls, and we can supply that demand for cottons today. But then polycotton is the most common fabric out there. So from a recycling point of view, cotton, which isn't, polycotton isn't the most popular fabric, but there are more and more solutions coming out where they separate the polyester and the cotton into cellulose.
Wow.
The polyester gets separated and it becomes things like, I don't know how to describe it. So it becomes like little pellets. And those pellets are sold to companies who manufacture polyester products like buckets and things like that. And or plant vases, right? Vase or pots for plants. And that polyester is created from a mold, and into that mold goes a heated version of those polyester pellets. So when you've got polyester garments, if you separate out the cotton, which becomes cellulose, you can utilize that in a number of applications. The polyester gets separated and can be used for those other where plastic is used. And you're using a waste product, instead of importing more polyester and more plastic, using some of your own waste in your own country, but you're also stopping more polyester being made, as I said, which is often made for one purpose only. So yes, there's a number of environmental benefits there as well, and you're utilising plastic that's already in the environment for that use, for that circular use.
So in front of us, we have a couple of different products that you produce, and I noticed that this one is completely white, and then this is a mix of greys and some oranges.
Yep.
So do you also have to separate it by colour?
We do, because we found that the white panel has been really popular. So people really like the white panels, and we are producing an ultra white where so look, if you can see this white panel here, and just to describe it to the people listening, there are flecks of fabric in here, and some of those little flecks of black and blue, threads that are in this white panel. We're trying to pull that out.
Okay.
And that comes from Yeah, so that comes from like a label at the back of the shirt.
Oh,
Sometimes it comes from a label on the front,
okay.
with the company's name. We're pulling all those off specifically and just making a very clean white panel. A little bit of extra work, but we think the how it looks will be fantastic. So we're just developing this all the time. That's something that we do at ImpacTex ourselves, but I think it's a pretty cool way to utilise a fantastic process by just changing it up a little bit, making it pretty cool.
You mentioned before that when you started your business, you had, what was it, 11 kilos?
Yeah, 1 carton of 11 kilos in
One
one
carton
one
of
whole
11
month.
kilos. Okay. And now you've obviously expanded to quite a large operation. How did you manage to get so much business in a short time? Like, was it because of your marketing strategy?
It was a lot of hustle.
Okay.
It was a lot of hustle. It was a lot of getting the message out, doing presentations, doing podcasts, webinar. Any opportunity I could to be present and to show up, we would within reason. We're a very small team. Everybody gets on the floor and helps on the floor, but it was really about getting the message out as much as we could, and we took every single opportunity we could. As big or as small as it was, just ready to get the message out. So yeah, a lot of hustle. I mean, same as anything, right? It's a lot of hustle. It's a lot of actually, being present. But it's also, we've got some great partners and we've got some great companies who really love what we do, and happy to recommend us to their partners and their friends and companies as well. So yeah, there's been it comes in a range of places. But yeah, it's really been about, the hustle, but also our amazing partners who, recommend us wherever they can. The fact we were the only real solution in town was also helpful.
Yeah.
And we were doing something quite new and innovative, really helped us as well. So we got some good press, and we had some really cool brands on board as well.
So what would you say was the biggest challenge in launching your business?
Biggest challenge? Yeah, well, it's always the old, finding solutions for the product. Taking in waste is less of an issue, but it's about, how do we find solutions for this? Originally, when we first started, we were going to send this across to Australia, back to Australia, because they had solutions in Australia. They're pretty basic solutions, but that was really the only show in town. There were small solutions in New Zealand for small amounts of waste, but nothing really scalable that could take, one whole company's, rebranded uniforms, old uniforms, in for recycling. So we really had to find really good scalable solutions that were avoiding landfill and were not going overseas. And that was really our thing. So that was really the big challenge, is finding, taking the waste in is one thing. That's fine. We can do that. We can get more, but it's finding those solutions. Now, in New Zealand, we partnered with a company who did some, like I say, who were doing insulation for many years. We discovered them just on a webinar. Hey, let's meet for a coffee. Let's meet for a chat. And we formed a partnership. So partnerships have been very important. We formed a partnership to develop this product here, but also to be a supplier of the raw material, but also to distribute the product once it's manufactured. So that was really important for us as well. But that only comes about because, you just ask questions. So, I think that the biggest challenge is getting more outflow solutions for the waste. And this is a good one. It's a flagship one, and it's really just the start. This has not been done anywhere in the world that we're aware of.
Wow.
Which is real cool for New Zealand,
It's
right?
amazing.
Yeah. So we're really proud of this. I'm really proud of the things that we're doing with this product. Laptop covers and phone covers and the signage, acoustic paneling, just different things that we're finding with this product. We can create a shoebox out of these panels.
Wow.
So all that is really interesting, and we're just finding out more and more stuff all the time. And people come to us with ideas. No such thing as a bad idea, right? We work with a number of designers, right, who use sustainable products. I'll give you a great story. We had a company came back and they had these children's skirts, and they were full of like a bright, glittery sequins on the outside of the skirt. Now the problem was they weren't some of the sequins were coming off, so they were dangerous for young kids. So they said, "Listen, we can't do anything with them. We need to get them, destroyed. They can't be sold They can't see the light of day. They came to us. They said, "What can you do?" I said, "Well, there's a polyester liner inside. We can recycle the polyester liner. The sequins, not sure what we can do. But like I said, we work with some really cool designers. And I phoned one and I said, Nicole, do you think you can? Here's a picture, right? What do you think?" And she said, "Yeah, I'll take them. I'll take them all, right?" And it's like, so, and she said, "I've got some ideas, right?" So she came in and she's buzzing about all these ideas she had, right? So she created some garments with these sequins, the sequins, but also like a set for a fashion show, and did all sorts of crazy things with these sequins. And it was just amazing. It was like, hey, that's really cool. These are people with a lot smarter than me and a lot more creative than I am, right? Doing some pretty cool things with product that would have been in landfill, right? So just extending the life of that garment. So there's some really neat solutions around the place. So the more of that we can identify and find, the better for this whole sustainability thing and managing waste of not just textile waste, but all other waste streams as well.
I noticed that you're wearing a company t-shirt at the moment. When sourcing clothes for your business and things like that, are you more mindful in where you get them from, and also do you recycle them through your business at the end?
Absolutely. So we have these T-shirts are from one of our customers, one of our large customers, and they're cotton T-shirts, right? So, and we love cotton T-shirts because they can go straight into a machine and be recycled. And cotton is such a fantastic fabric. I wear this T-shirt everywhere. Winter, summer, doesn't matter, right? It's always on. Always got to be looking at the brand. So that is from one of our customers. We have about 3 or 4 of us go to functions and different areas where we need something more than a T-shirt, but the clothing we use is clothing that we've received, right? And it's been unbranded, and we've just used that, which would have been a landfill, right? It came to us for recycling. We've just rebranded that with the permission of the company who sent it, and said, "Listen, we'll just put our brand on it and wear that as good gear." So, so we've got a few polo shirts, we've got some jerseys, and got some jackets, which we received, and we just repurposed for ourselves. When they're finished end of life, they'll be repurposed. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what other innovations are you most excited about in terms of textile waste solutions that you see in other countries?
Yeah, actually, that's really interesting because we see a lot of stuff that's happening, particularly in Europe and the US, where they're driving that extended producer responsibility, where the brands and the companies that are selling the product into a market are responsible for the end of life. The cool thing about that is that it drives innovation. It drives solutions at end-of-life waste streams. We love being where we are and doing what we're doing and being solutioneers, looking for new solutions for this waste that we have. But there's some pretty cool things happening overseas, some good stuff happening in Australia today. This stuff, of course, which is happening here in New Zealand, which we'd love to take overseas also, and have had some great interest as well from companies in Europe and the US who haven't seen this before. But there's also some pretty cool, some chemical based, right, where they're breaking down products, like I mentioned before, about the polyesters and the cottons, but also some interesting sort of mechanical processes as well, where the product is torn and created into different products. Yeah, and it's also those extra, not the common waste streams, cotton, polycottons, polyesters. It's also things like the nylons and some of the hardcore polyesters, which is a lot of that product and waste around the place. They're all fabrics and textiles, but there has been no solutions for some of those products. There's some interesting stuff happening internationally about those products and those waste streams, traditionally more difficult to recycle. So, yeah, I think there's a lot happening, but, we just want to keep at the forefront and see what's going on and pull into New Zealand whatever we can as a solution. So, yeah.
Wow, I mean, you're doing amazing things, but what legacy do you want to leave for future generations?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, and it was kind of we started this as it was really about knowing what the waste issue was, right, and knowing how much waste there was in garment manufacturing and fabric manufacturing, and then being able to apply that and say, hey, listen, I can help provide solutions for it. And then you really get into, and we talk about this with my partners and on a regular basis. And my wife, Carol, we talk about a lot as well. We've got kids and, it's like, what are we leaving behind for them, right? Well, what's the world we're leaving behind, right? So there was a big mess over the years, and the human species is full of that sort of thing, right? When plastics came in, that was the greatest thing ever, right? Some of that plastic and some of these things solved another issue that was around before, right? And the biggest environmental issue in the early 1900s were horses, right? They replaced it with cars. Cars was the solution to horses, right? And so that was and it just, everything evolves and moves, and then we create new solutions for different things. Now you see how cars has evolved, you see how plastics has evolved in many ways. So I think it's really about what are we doing to create a better environment, a better world for our kids. And, you want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, it's like I come back to what I said at the beginning, right? Just the smallest thing you can do is still something you can do. But we have the opportunity of what we've created to do a little more because that's what we do, right? And we're happy to get rid of textile waste. I mean, if it goes to a big hole in the ground, that's not a great solution, right? So it's not great for the environment. It's not great for anybody, but it's also not great for my kids and grandkids and great-great-grandkids, et cetera, right? And other future generations. It's not a great legacy to leave, right? So if we can do something about that collectively, and I think anybody who's in our business will say that's part of the driver as well, is that we're trying to create a better environment, a better future for the future generations. Something there for them to say, hey, there was a big problem and there was people there doing some stuff about it. And it was, so yeah.
That's amazing. It's been so inspiring talking to you today, and I think it's really cool how, you've created this solution that's truly one of a kind even overseas, we're this tiny country, and yet we have people like you doing such amazing things. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. How can the listeners find out more about ImpacTex?
Firstly, thanks for that. I got to say, it's not just me. We've got a great team of people who do this, and there's a lot of other people who do this as well. So, but thank you. The ImpacTex can be found on the internet, of course, www.impactex, which is impactex.nz. That's our website. But yeah, just look for us in any one of those AS Colour, Icebreaker, Kathmandu, Macpac stores. You'll see those drop-off bins in those stores, and you can drop off those, end-of-life garments that you want to donate or recycle at those stores. But yeah, apart from that, look at the website, and all the information's there. You can contact us through there as well. So
awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Lilah. Thanks for having me.
I'd also like to thank everyone listening. That was Jeff Vollebregt from ImpacTex, and I'm Lilah McDonald. A special thanks to sponsors of this podcast, Office Max, whose vision is to empower sustainable and successful workplaces. Learn more about how they can help your business at officemax.co.nz. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and stay tuned to nzbusiness.co.nz for more details on upcoming episodes and bonus podcast material. Let's make our world more sustainable, one story at a time. See you soon!
At Office Max business accounts, pay less. Sign up at officemax.co.nz/pay less.
Let's get it done!
T's and C's apply.